Welcome back to Badger Blitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined by a very special guest today, the executive chair of the Varsity Collective. It is Rob Master. Rob, so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Well, great to be here, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Of course. NIL is on the minds of everyone right now. It's on the lips of everyone between signing season, transfer portal season, and athletes finally being able to really sort of take control of their own brands. And people all around Wisconsin want to know more about the Varsity Collective, which is why we really appreciate you being here today. I want to start with a little bit more, though, about your personal background. How did you, get into this in the first place to become an executive director? I know your background is at Unilever.
Yeah. So, I come with 30 years of marketing experience, working from the likes of Pepsi, Taco Bell. I worked on the agencies. I did a stint at Disney. I did a couple startups, which actually has been very helpful in working through the starting up of the Varsity Collective. And the last 20 years, as you said, is at Unilever, who maybe if you don't know the name Unilever, but you certainly know our brands, Dove, Axe, Hellman's, Klondike ice cream, Degree deodorant. You name something in a cabinet, in your bathroom, in your kitchen, your laundry room, and likely it's a Unilever product. So that's kind of my backdrop. And so really focused on consumer marketing.
All right, that's fantastic. And especially for athletes, they need a lot of this marketing to maximize their NIL opportunities. And so now I know that you originally got into this by just kind of a happenstance meeting with AD Chris McIntosh, because you're an adjunct professor actually at the university.
Yeah, so it's funny. I've been watching NIL since the beginning. Unilever, we've been a longtime sponsor of the NCAA for over a decade. So as this started brewing, we were watching very closely because we have a number of brands who participate in NCAA engagement, Degree, Dove, Axe, to name a few. And so when July 1st, 2021 came around, we were actually the first major company with our Degree brand to launch a campaign. And it actually was a purpose-led campaign because we knew there'd be a lot of car dealers, local businesses jumping in. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but we wanted to try to set the example for large corporations, organizations to try to do NIL with more purpose. And so we developed a whole campaign around, almost 20-something athletes, a couple Badgers, of course, were part of that, but across the country. And, we did everything from working with them on their social media and storytelling, but we provide them mentors, and we also did community programming. And so while I was visiting and doing my adjunct, as you mentioned, I ran into Chris McIntosh, Mac, and I just had a quick conversation. Hey, what are you guys up to? Here's what we're doing at Unilever with our Degree brand. And we just stayed in touch on, over the concept of it. And then over the course of the last 6 months, I got in touch with some other alumni, and there's this idea to launch this concept called the Varsity Collective. And so I quickly raised my hand and said, hey, I've been like a frontline seat to all this. I'm happy to help. And kind of next thing I know, we have a startup on our hands. And what I loved about the Varsity Collective is that it is so much in keeping with the Wisconsin way, and it's purpose-driven, and it's accessible to all 800 plus student athletes across 23 sports, which I think is part of a differentiator versus some of the other collectives. But I think we're just so aligned with the school, and we feel like the Varsity Collective is a reflection of our alumni, of our fans, and of the school itself.
You called the collective purpose-driven. What would you say then the real purpose of the collective is? Because I think there's a lot of rumors, innuendo, misinformation about what an NIL collective does and what they don't do. So, what is your purpose as the Varsity Collective, and what are some of the key things that you're doing?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. I think we look at two fronts. One is there's a purpose around just maximizing NIL for the college athlete. I think this is a unique moment in time. It's temporary. It's like 4 to 5 years. And so our opportunity is to work with the student athletes to educate them and help work with them as brands to help develop this opportunity and take advantage of NIL. I think the second part is part of that kind of continuing education is preparing them for life after college. At the end of the day, 98% of these kids will go professional in something other than the sport they play. And so how are we taking advantage of NIL and this whole collective to not just maximize this moment in time for deals and involving them with charity, but also prepare them for life after college. And I think we have this amazing set of resources with our alumni base who's really interested. It's funny, I started getting involved with alumni as we started standing this thing up, and I had to stop taking calls. Every person I spoke to, former athlete, alumni, was like, I'm here to help. I want to engage. And there was so many people. I was like, I'm one person. Let's just kind of slow it down and get this thing launched. Of course, now we have a team of people involved. And so we've begun to get much more involved with our alumni. But I think that's really the two fundamental purposes. And then it certainly comes to life in a number of different ways.
So what are some of those ways that it's coming to life? What have been sort of the things that you've done since you guys kicked off that you think are sort of the most emblematic of what you're trying to do as a collective?
Yeah. So I think, first off is, the Varsity Collective is a charitable 501c3. And so it allows us to partner with the student athletes on behalf of a range of charities. And we've done a number of charities around the Dade County area. And we have some exciting things, coming up in the next week or two, where we're engaging the football team around literacy. We've engaged the volleyball team around Thanksgiving. We did the women's hockey team, the women's tennis team, Toys for Tots, Empty Slate. So a number of charities like that where we work with student athletes.
Charlie!
The other part of the Varsity Collective is we have a wholly owned subsidiary called VC Connect. And that allows us to work with the student athletes as they go out and venture into more business kind of brand influencer deals. So whether it be for packaged goods or for local restaurants or you name a business. The other is it allows us to create a membership opportunity for different tiers for people to get access and engagement with both student athletes, but access to the programs that they love. And so that's kind of the first part in terms of working with them as brand ambassadors, brand influencers, either for charities or for businesses. The other big thing, which I think is really differentiated the Varsity Collective, is around our kind of student development programming. And there's two things we're doing there. One is we're doing this program called Rep Yourself, because that's actually what we're trying to educate and work with the student athletes on, is to represent themselves. They are themselves becoming brands. And the truth is, this will value them well beyond just the NIL college experience, but how to think about themselves on Instagram, how to think about themselves on TikTok, Twitter. And what I love is that we're bringing in Badger alum who either work or worked at Twitter, TikTok, Meta, Instagram. And so I think that's the first. The other part of this is around life currency. We actually trademarked the term. And of course, there's so much more than just you hear all the buzz about this commercial transaction of money, but there's so much more we could do that we couldn't do before that NIL now allows us to do, which is allowing us to engage in mentorship opportunities that were, I think, just not something permitted in previous NCAA rules. And so, we're bringing in people, whether they be, leaderships of major companies, entrepreneurs, finance, social workers, doctors, lawyers. We have this in the Badger alumni, and based on the interest of student athletes, we're going to pair those groups together for mentorship opportunities. And so we're really excited about that. We're kicking that off actually in early January.
And so what are some of the key things that the collective doesn't do? Because we know that there are people out there who just assume oh, you give money to a collective and they're just giving it to the student athletes themselves. And that's not quite how it works. So what are some key things that you guys don't do?
Yeah, so it's a great question, actually, because you're right. There is a lot of buzz. And frankly, it's a bit of the Wild West. Some of the collectives are actually doing a lot of things that we're not doing. So we're not agents. We are not signing exclusive marketing deals for a quarterback, a point guard, or a middle blocker, which what some collectives are doing. We're here to help facilitate and partner and work with a student athlete in the development of, as I said, maximizing NIL. In the end, they're going to go out and represent themselves. We're bringing in, as part of the Rep Yourself programming, we've actually already brought in a woman who actually specialized in sports contracts. It was called X's and O's. And she really is helping them and did a whole Q&A about how to approach a contract. In the end, either they have an agent or we recommend going to law school or they use someone else. But we are not an agent representing. We're helping to prepare them, facilitate, but we're not an agent. So I think that's the biggest thing that we're not involved in. I think the other, as I referenced it, some schools and collectives are set up to say, hey, we're going to make an offer and have the marketing rights to X athlete, a quarterback from you name the state. And they're actually going to pay that athlete on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. And in the end, they own that athlete's marketing rights. So That's, again, something else we're not going to get into. So those are, I think, probably the two big things you're hearing a lot about, and a lot of money being thrown around, which we're not getting into. But we're going to certainly work and support existing athletes, agents, and existing athletes themselves to make sure that they're prepared when they do get an opportunity. Because what we like to say is every opportunity they have with a campaign is an audition for the next opportunity. They're representing themselves, they're representing that brand or charity, and they're representing Wisconsin. And so our focus is making sure that they're prepared to do that. So they get one deal after another, and it becomes like, momentum for them, and then the athletes of Wisconsin that follow.
That's fantastic. So if people who are listening to this and watching this are interested in getting involved, how can they get involved with the Varsity Collective? Or if they are at the executive level, if they're at a higher level, how do they get involved in VC Connect?
Yeah, so I think it's two parts. So one is the one-stop shop is going to varsitycollective.com. There's like two different pathways when you come to the site. One is around learning more about the charitable component. It's a 501c3. We're coming to year end. So obviously you're looking to make a charitable donation before year end. The Varsity Collective could be a great opportunity for that, because what we're going to do with those dollars is work with student athletes around charities that are in need. So whether it be literacy, whether it be Toys for Tots, Ronald McDonald House, there's so many opportunities to use these, I think, athletes as influencers to help promote, generate awareness, and drive for charity. The other part is VC Connect, which is a different click way, and you kind of go different part of the experience where you can do a couple different things. You could sign up to be a member. You could sign up for actually to hire a badger to be an influencer for your business. And that's not charity. That's actually a business transaction. And then the last but not least on that is you can also get involved in like creating a badger experience. So the volleyball team can get involved in like someone's birthday party, which they have done before. And so there's a host of fun ways to get involved with VC Connect that way. But, our opportunity here is that this is a unique moment in time for these student athletes. And while we certainly want to make sure we're maximizing opportunities for this 4 or 5 years, we really want to make sure we're focusing on preparing them for life after college. And I think that's a big part of our focus, in addition to like the here and now.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for taking a little bit of time out of your extraordinarily busy schedule to spend some time with us here at badgerblitz.com. Make sure to go to thevarsitycollective.com to learn more about all the great stuff that Rob talked about. I'll be back later this week with Clint Cosgrove doing our usual recruiting breakdown. And so until next time, we'll see you guys in the den.
Wisconsin.